So, should be recording now. Good morning, Glenn. Sunday morning on the level. How are we today?
I'm feeling a bit flat this morning, mate.
That sounded as if you actually had that joke ready for my opening, Glenn. You know, did you rehearse that in any way?
Was it that obvious?
Yeah, it was.
At least I
Anyway,
didn't do this.
as we said, Sunday morning is a good time for us to catch up, and we thought we might as well just record these conversations because they might be helpful to other people.
Yep.
People want to know where we're coming from. I would always point them to Dale at Beyond the Imaginary Curve. The first 15 minutes of any of his Saturday night hangouts will give you a fair, good idea of the fact that we don't know where we are, we don't know what the fuck this is all about, and we have lots and lots of questions.
Exactly.
And the question for this little segment is, are we noticing things more, or is there more of it? What do we mean by that? Let me just try and explain it, at least from my perspective. There's sometimes discussion about are people waking up? Is the flat level Earth topic going in a positive direction? Or is it just that the people involved in it think that it is because we're seeing things more and more, but things haven't really changed? To give an example, are the powers that be, or the people that have an agenda, actually making more science fiction films and showing more NASA bullshit in the hope of putting the genie back in the bottle? Or is it just that the amount of people waking up, making videos and looking at things, maybe it isn't really changing? It's just the fact that we are being presented with those things, or we're looking into more of it ourselves and seeing these things. I suppose it's a bit like like seeing a number on a clock all the time. If it's subliminal, then you're not aware of it, but as soon as you become aware of it, you see things more. So I guess I'm asking, are we moving in a positive direction and there is more bullshit being thrown at us because they're losing? Or is it because we're seeing more of it just because we're more aware and attentive?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I know what you mean about feeling that way. It's seeming to be the case. Definitely, I would say the first part of what you mentioned about whether people, more and more people, have been alerted to the fact that there is this flat Earth thing going on. I mean, that definitely seems to be happening. The number of people that, when I have a discussion, I might be discussing evolution or some other subject. Quite often now, the person that I'm discussing it with will say to me, "Do you also believe the Earth is flat?"
Yeah.
And you know that they've asked that. They haven't asked that question out of the blue. You know that they've asked the question because they've heard of it. So it's definitely out there. I
I would
think
agree with
more and
that.
more people.
Just to stop you there, I would definitely, people have now heard of the topic. That has definitely proliferated. That's multiplied exponentially in the last 5 years. The advertising campaign has worked. People do know of the topic, but probably they don't have the qualitative aspects of the topic to be able to make proper discernment. It's still very superficial for a lot of people as to how deep they're looking at it.
Well, even worse than superficial. They're coming at it from the angle of, because they've been previously brainwashed into this concept of flat earthers being silly, that that the term flat earther has been used as a derogatory term.
Yep.
Makes people straight away go, even though it has become a much more well-known subject, people don't really know anything about it. They just have this. It's like a meme. Is the only way I can think of it. There's some sort of a flat Earth meme that's going through society at the moment, and people aren't really looking at it subjectively yet. unless they do sit down with somebody like yourself or myself and actually ask some serious questions, it's amazing how many people you can see the look in their eye. You can see them start to think, hang on, maybe that's a good question. You know,
Yep.
you can see when they're thinking, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one.
And you know, that's my feeling too, that people are noticing that there are questions that are to be expressed. You know how very often, if all we're given is answers all the time, or even if you speak answers thinking that you know things, then that for me tends to make questions go unasked. Because if I'm continuously bombarded with answers, then I don't really question things anymore. Right. So, and that seems to be part of the ploy, is to give us answers to everything, right? All kinds of answers to, so that the questions go away. And we throw out questions that we shouldn't be throwing out and jumping immediately to conclusions. I mean,
actually, I was telling you before about the girl that I was working with, and we were having a discussion, and she was the one that asked me today or yesterday whether I believed that the Earth was flat, and I said, yeah, I do. And we got to that because we've been discussing evolution and other things that people are seeing as sort of conspiracies or hoaxes or whatever terminology they want to use. But when we started our discussion, after only a short while, and we probably discussed it for about an hour, after for that whole time, I noticed that the bar staff and other customers had gravitated towards us and were actually listening. And occasionally one of the bar staff would put in a, oh, what about ships disappearing over the horizon? And straight away, you know that the guy has heard the story before. You know that that's not a question that he would have even thought of 4 or 5 years ago. That it wouldn't have come up in conversation, but bang, there it was. And I actually said to the girl at the time, that conversation basically finished, and she went outside to have a cigarette, and when she came back in, I went through the process of asking her questions about why she smoked. And I was basically getting her, and it was really interesting to watch, using a sort of Socratic method to get a person to understand that what they're doing is utterly ridiculous. Why are you smoking that cigarette? Do you like them? What?
You're trying to tell me something, Glenn.
Well, it was funny. She basically, oh, you mean yourself? No, sorry, mate.
No, sorry,
and I explained to her after I'd done it, I said to her, did you realise what I just did? And she said, what? And I said, I just asked you a heap of questions. I didn't tell you shouldn't smoke. You decided yourself that you shouldn't be smoking. All I did was ask you some questions. But anyway, to get back, sorry about that, I've gone way off track there.
No, you haven't gone way off track. I think that's part of the problem, that yes, people still don't inquire enough or ask the appropriate questions of themselves and of others, how they come by their beliefs. So yeah, I don't think it's irrelevant whatsoever.
But you're talking about whether there's definitely an increase in movies and, I don't know, television.
News, television, reporting,
maybe, music even. That seem to be pushing the other side of the story, where the globers, I don't even like that term, but the people who believe in a globe, or the people who are trying to perpetrate or perpetuate the myth that we live on a spinning globe. Like I said to these people, I basically said to them that when I realised all these people were listening and they were sort of saying things to me, oh yeah, but you can't really believe you live on a flat earth. And I said, hang on for a second. You believe you live on a ball covered in water that's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and orbiting a red hot, I mean, a yellow hot globe at 67,000 miles an hour. That's what you believe. And
that's the thing, is there's such a different, you know, they will try to switch the burden of ridicule to
yeah,
you, but if they were to really analyze their own belief system, they'd see that they're the one that are holding absurd beliefs, right? But it's very
yeah,
difficult for them to make that flip, because, you know, for me now, Glenn, when every time I think about the preposterousness of the spinning globe hoax, I mean, it conjures, you know, absurd pictures in my head. You know, I have to compulsively laugh sometimes, you know.
yeah,
I mean, it's like you know, the picture you would have if you saw an octopus falling out a tree, you know. You'd think it was, you know, really funny, right? The way the fucker was, you know. So you've got these, I don't know, the whole thing just so absurd got, but yeah, people think it's the other way around. But
yeah.
yeah,
And that's one of the things that's, I wouldn't say disturbing, but is interesting. It's I can't figure it out. I can't figure out. I've heard different explanations for why people find it so difficult to look at things from another angle. I mean, you can understand people that are in the industry or that are in on the lie. You can understand where they're coming from, but for just the general public to want to hold on to something so strongly, even when you point out the just incredible absurdity of the things that they actually believe, it astounds me. I don't get it, and I must admit I was one of them.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's obviously always that confusion between cause and effect and correlation that makes people confused as to the thing, right? As to what's going on. You know, with gravity, they'll do it. You know, they'll attribute a cause to this thing that they'll call gravity, but you can't put gravity in a jar. You know, you can't put space-time curvature in a jar. You know, we're back to differentiating between mental objects and physicals and visibles again.
Yep.
And people seeing a correlation and thinking that there's something further behind it or some cause behind it. Now, obviously, I think you need, that's where the common sense kicks in for me. You can see people doing nefarious things and lying to you based on experience and wisdom, and being able to, you know, see through bullshit. But there's
Yep.
so many people who won't do that, who will see a correlation and automatically again jump to a cause and effect and somebody's explanation of that, and then, you know, think that to be true without
Yeah.
ever having inquired or questioned it. So
Yeah. Well, I think
I mean,
that's
the
probably
correlation part, just to bring that little story in, and maybe people don't know about it, of mice chewing rope, because I think it's a good way to expand on what we're saying. So you know, there's a prisoner in a cell, and this cell is basically been, you know, nobody's ever escaped in hundreds of years. And all of a sudden, this prisoner escapes because mice were in the jail cell and they chewed the rope and freed him. Right now, lots of people might then think to themselves, "Wait a minute, you know, what are these mice up to?" You know, somebody's put them up to it. You know, there's a mice puppet master controlling the mice, and you know, there's some magical thing has happened to make those mice do that, and there's some nefarious plot, right? Or you could just think, "Hey, fucking, that's just the way it is. Mice like chewing rope. Somebody chewed the rope. The guy got free. There's nothing else to think about here, guys, right?"
yeah.
And separating those two things, not to jump to metaphysical conclusions, but to see reality the way reality is a
Yeah.
problem for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. The mice chew rope. They were in a room that had rope in it, so they chewed the rope. That's all that really happened.
Yes.
But what people will try to work out is, were those mice actually trying to help that man escape?
Yes. Yeah.
Was there actually an agency there that was saying somehow or another, yeah,
Mice
let's get this
agents,
guy
James
out.
Bond mice, 00 mice. Yeah. No, exactly that. So that agency or the cause of things, and being able to separate that from correlations, is something where exactly that's where our senses can kick in, because we talked about that before. The correlation of senses, being able to relate and compare certain things that are happening to you that you're experiencing only is real if you have all your senses in play. Then you can make a definitive statement about the objective reality, and you know that everybody else on this earth shares that, right?
Yeah.
But having only one perception, like visible, or only hearing something will not give you the full truth of the matter.
No. I don't know whether it fits in as well, but you think about people's experience of water. You hold your glass up there at the moment, you'll see that the level of the water, the surface of that water is flat.
Yep.
And you can sort of say, yeah, it doesn't matter what angle you put the container on, the water will always remain horizontal. The surface of the water will always remain horizontal. You know that if you look into a swimming pool, the surface of the water is flat. You know that you look at the surface of a lake on a very calm day, the surface is flat. Even the ocean, when you look at it on a calm day, is flat. You know that. That's what you experience.
Yep.
But then everybody's told that we live on a spinning globe that's covered in water. Yep. And you say to them, okay, well, how does the water, going by your experience of how water operates, how does it stick to that surface? And they, well, in most cases, don't know. But then somebody will say to them, gravity. And they'll go, oh, yeah, gravity.
And that's them going to a mental object as opposed to a physical, characteristic of a substance.
Yeah.
So a physical object. Yeah.
Yeah, they've gone to an idea. They've gone to, somebody's told them, and all I have to say is the word gravity. And all of a sudden that means that is an explanation for why the oceans stick to a spinning ball. Sad, isn't it?
You just gotta believe it. Just believe me.
It's so sad. It's so sad that people believe that sort of stuff, and that it's so easy for them to get away with it. That people who are speaking common sense and the truth have to struggle so much to just try and get people to even think for themselves now.
Yep.
And people even say to me sometimes, I don't want to think. I don't want to think about that.
Because it's painful. I mean, and because it is difficult to attend to. I'll come back to if you want to focus your attention on something that could be uncomfortable to your belief system, then it is a pain. I mean, I'm not saying it's necessarily a physical pain like toothache, right? But it is a strenuous effort that you need to undertake to continuously search and ask questions. It's so very easy just to, fuck it, what's on the TV, let's have some sex, honey,
what it's got to do
whatever.
With my life. What has it got to do with my life?
Yeah,
doesn't matter to me.
Well, that's usually in combination with I can't change it anyway. I'm a fucking victim,
Nothing I can do about it, mate.
Nothing I can do about it. What do you want me to do about it? I can start by thinking for a kickoff. Yeah.
It's one of the things that came out in the conversation at the pub was at least it's something interesting to talk about.
Absolutely. To say, I think there is a deep-rooted, I think your example, I don't know whether we've covered this, but your example of exactly that, people coming in closer to the conversation is for me a sign that it is something that everybody has a deep-rooted question about, an inquiry about, even if it doesn't touch them in their daily life and we're all distracted. There's something about that whole question that is, absolutely, I don't know, inherent in us, right? We do want to know, and we're actually just being held by distractions from it, from answering those questions. And I think, situations like that show it very well, that people do want to know more, and are drawn towards the question.
Yeah, and that brings us back to whether there really are more movies and stuff, whether the powers that be or the people perpetuating the myth are actually realizing the same thing, realizing that people are starting to ask those questions and trying to create a pushback.
I
by
think so.
making more space movies and
Yes, I mean, we asked the question at the start here, but I mean, at least my current answer would be, and I don't think it's going to change either, is that people are definitely waking up and they have heard the question and they do want the question answered, and the powers that be or whoever are actually trying to push back on that, trying to dumbify the people, or what I said earlier on, throw answers at people so that the questions go away. So that people stop questioning, because I think it's that inquiry, that how should I say, constitution that we have, that want or that need or that desire is what they want to quench, right? So as long as they throw out lots of answers, they know they'll hit the bases with lots of people, and then the questions will die away. So for me, more people are waking up and they're trying to counteract it.
Yep. You can see that definitely with people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye. I haven't actually heard of either of them for a while, but you can see that the initial pushback was coming through those sorts of people, that they were trying to put them forward as genuine spokespeople for the heliocentric model. And I think that what you're seeing now is they're being pulled back a bit, and they're trying to put forward a little bit more. I don't know. Have you seen any of this stuff with this Danny Faulkner?
No.
An astrophysicist who's written a book claiming he's refuted all the flat Earth claims.
Yeah, right.
They're starting to get away from the silly jockeys, the silly jocks like deGrasse Tyson, Nye, even Richard Dawkins in another field, but along the same lines. They're starting to pull back from those people because they've been so discredited in so many ways now that you can see
nobody can take them seriously, right?
Yeah.
I'll put it this way: people know the difference between real science and educators of science, right? The people that are trotted out for us to consume are not in any way actually linked to real science in in any form or shape. They're just linked to stories and narratives about science, right? So-called educators. But I mean, generally speaking, it's a good thing, right? And because again, it either shows that they're trying to put the genie back in the bottle by throwing out more obfuscation and answers to questions nobody's fucking asked. I mean, they're very good at avoiding the question and giving us answers to things that we haven't asked, right?
Exactly.
But at the same time, the other how should I say, direction that they could be pushing it is that it is a controlled release, and that this was in fact planned. Wake them up, get them thinking about it, throw them with lots of answers, but again, keep them in a state of confusion and idolization and all the other bad human traits that they've managed to promote. Keep that there so that the narrative can be changed, in a controlled way. Or they're worried and they're putting the genie back in the bottle. I'm open to both of these possibilities.
I struggle with the controlled release idea. I don't think so. But
yeah, because we're back to mice chewing rope again, then, aren't we? Are we going to attribute nefarious things to everything that we see, or are we going to have to accept that some things just are that way? Nobody told us to get together, Glenn, and talk about this, right? No, do you know what I mean? So there is no agenda in that respect.
No.
Yeah? So
no, I think in our cases we've just sort of in different ways. You've come through it as a mathematician and physicist, and I've come through it as a sign writer.
Doesn't matter. We share the same faculties.
You come to this this point in your life where you start wondering, start asking questions. Actually, it's about asking questions is what it all boils down to. It comes back to just asking questions.
Yeah, and the ability to ask them without ridicule, without, you know,
Yeah.
infantile, asinine fucking answers to questions that nobody asked, you know, or trying to spin the narrative in another direction to you know, discourage, you know, open questioning. Yeah.
I tell you a really good example. I mean, a way of seeing how it works. Like with the flat Earth and the globe Earth, it's a little bit difficult because it's so much of it is, oh, how would you say? It's done on a more supposedly scientific basis. And in a lot of cases, it is actually science. But you can see the same thing is happening. I saw a video today about a woman called Posey Parker, and she's actually quite an interesting woman. But she got an organisation together, and they put a big billboard up with the definition of woman, because she's completely against transgenderism. She's saying it's disgusting what's going on. She's really upset about this whole transgender question. Do we want to go there?
Feel free. Hey, talk about anything you want, my man.
Well, I found it interesting because you could see a perfectly rational woman trying to discuss what she'd done, and then this other guy who was pushing the transgender ideal, and he had gone to the trouble of harassing the owners of the billboard site to the point where they removed the billboard. And all that was on the billboard was the definition of woman. It just had woman and then another line about the pronunciation or where it came from, and then the definition, which was adult female human.
I've got to laugh, you know, that these things are, you know, a poster, you know, stating biological facts and a common definition is somehow supposed to be radical. That the billboard needs to be removed, you know.
And to listen to the guy talk, I mean, he was just a disgrace. I mean, just shocking for me to look at a man talking the way he was. And he was a doctor. He wasn't a transgender himself, but he was saying, you know, that it's okay. And this Posey Parker, I've watched another few of her videos as well, because she intrigued me. When I first watched her video, I didn't like her. And then I realized what she was doing. She was actually pointing out that this the whole transgender thing was destroying women's lives. She said, we no longer have anywhere that we can go that's a woman's place.
Yeah.
Now that they're making laws that say a man who considers himself to be a woman can enter women's spaces, that's outrageous.
Yeah.
And that's where she's coming from. She's trying to say, you know, you can't let these people call themselves women. They are not women. Here is the definition of a woman. Adult female, adult female human. Yep. That's what a woman is.
Yeah.
It sort of really intrigued me. And to watch that, you could see the same sort of, in the guy that had the billboards removed, in his mannerisms, in his speech, he reminded me so much of the people that are pushing the globe stuff.
Yeah. Well, it is, and it's a very good point, you know, and just to generalize that, I mean, was it Voltaire, you know, I'll defend that guy's right to believe whatever he wants, right? And also hers, the woman in question who's stating her opinion. And, you know, again, to go back to the fact that, you know, I would never stop anybody from conjecturing, but if he wants me, he shouldn't ask me to accept his conjecture, right? Or mistake his conjecture for knowledge, right? or to expect me to do it, right? Those
No.
things are not, you know, that's not part of free speech or anything, right? So
Yeah. Well, he actually brought up free speech. He actually said, I'll send you a link to the video. He actually said, I'm not trying to do anything with her free speech. She can do, you know, she can say whatever she wants, but she can't do it in the context. And straight away, he's just negated what he just said. But she can't do it in this particular way. She can't do it in a way that makes it. He was talking about making it unsafe for transgenders. And she's
for
saying,
emotions and
oh, it's
feelings.
just a billboard with the definition of woman on it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's a weapon.
Well, it's a radical weapon, yeah, of, you know, was it human terrorists? Yeah. Okay, I think that would be a good point just to stop this discussion as well. I think we did stray slightly off topic, but
Yeah.
I think the question that you asked often takes you in different places. So again, I hope this was of
something you're going to have to do with me on a regular basis. I think is rope me back in.
Well, I wouldn't worry about it. There's no way to do that, I don't think, my man. Not in the realms of free speech, anyway. So I'll just stop the recording there and thank everybody for listening.
Yep. Have a good Sunday.